Taeyeon Park hiked the quiet trail on a Saturday morning. The autumn air felt good in his lungs as he climbed higher into the Baekdu Mountains. As an aerospace engineer, he spent most days in his lab surrounded by computers and equations. These weekend hikes kept him sane. He rounded a bend in the trail and stopped suddenly. Something wasn't right. Ahead, a patch of forest looked burned. The trees were broken and black. Smoke still rose from the ground. Forest fire. He wondered, but something felt wrong. The burn pattern wasn't natural. It formed almost a perfect circle. Taeyeon stepped carefully toward the center of the destruction. The smell hit him first, not burning wood, but something like melted metal and strange chemicals. Then he saw it. Half buried in the dirt lay something massive, gleaming despite being covered in soil and broken trees. "That's not a meteor," he whispered. The object was about the size of a bus, but shaped like nothing he had ever seen. Parts of it looked like they were made of crystal that glowed with a faint blue light. Other sections appeared almost alive, with surfaces that rippled slightly like the skin of some giant creature. Taeyeon's heart pounded. He knew he should probably run, call someone. The police, the military, someone, but curiosity pulled him forward. Years of studying aerospace engineering made the conclusion impossible to ignore. This was a spacecraft, and not one made by humans. A gap in the side of the craft revealed what might be an entrance. Against all better judgment, Taeyeon moved closer. He peered inside but could see little in the dim blue glow. "Hello," he called, feeling slightly ridiculous. "Anyone need help?" A low rumble answered him, like a growl but weaker. Something was alive in there. "I must be crazy," Taeyeon muttered as he found handholds in the strange material and pulled himself inside the craft. The interior was warmer than outside, and bathed in that same blue light that seemed to pulse slowly, like a heartbeat. The space was larger than he expected, with curved walls covered in symbols he didn't recognize. But what took his breath away was the creature lying in the center. It resembled a dragon from old Korean myths, but clearly alien. About the size of a small car, it had 6 limbs, 4 legs, and what appeared to be 2 wings folded against its body. Iridescent scales covered its form, shifting colors in the blue light. Its long neck ended in a reptilian head with horns that curved backward. Most alarming was the dark liquid pooling beneath it, blood or something like it. The creature's eyes opened as Taeyeon approached. They were large, intelligent, and filled with pain. "You're hurt," Taeyeon said softly, knowing the creature couldn't understand. Near the dragon, Taeyeon noticed what appeared to be mechanical equipment. Some parts looked damaged. A broken tube leaked gas, and wires sparked occasionally. His engineer's mind quickly assessed the situation. The creature seemed to be connected to some kind of life support system that was failing. Taeyeon unslung his backpack and pulled out his multi-tool. Years of fixing complex machinery had trained him to read systems, even unfamiliar ones. He could see where connections had been severed, where power wasn't flowing correctly. The dragon watched him as he worked. Sometimes it would lift a clawed limb and point to specific components. Taeyeon realized with a start that the creature was trying to help him fix the equipment. "You understand what I'm doing," he said with wonder. Hours passed as Taeyeon worked. The sun began to set, making the blue glow inside the craft more pronounced. He used parts from his phone, his flashlight, even the aluminum from his water bottle to create makeshift fixes. The creature occasionally made sounds, sometimes pained, sometimes what seemed like encouragement. Finally, the systems stabilized. The blue light grew stronger, and the dragon's breathing became more regular. The leak of dark fluid slowed, then stopped. In the dim blue light, Taeyeon sat back against the curved wall, exhausted. The dragon's eyes stayed fixed on him, studying him with unmistakable intelligence. To his shock, the creature lifted a limb and reached for what looked like a small device near its head. It pressed this against its throat, and a mechanical sound emerged, followed by words in halting Korean. I am Ryu. The translation device produced in a metallic voice. You saved me when others would fear me. Why? Taehyun stared, unable to speak for several seconds. The creature, Ryu, waited patiently. I'm Taehyun, he finally managed. And I helped because you needed it. The dragon's head tilted slightly. Most beings run from the unknown. You approached. Taehyun shrugged. I'm an engineer. When I see broken things, I try to fix them. Engineer, the device repeated, as if Ryu was learning the word. You fix things beyond your understanding. I understood enough, Taehyun replied. Your life support system was failing. The principles are similar to systems I work with, even if the technology is different. Ryu shifted position slightly, seeming more comfortable now. Your species is not known to us as technologically advanced. Yet you adapted quickly. Taehyun smiled. Humans are good at improvising. You are not afraid? Ryu asked. I'm terrified, Taehyun admitted, but also amazed. Night had fallen completely outside. Taehyun knew he should start back down the mountain before it got too dark, but he couldn't bring himself to leave. Are there others coming for you? He asked. Other, whatever you are. I am Dore, Ryu explained. My vessel was damaged in transit. No distress signal was sent before systems failed. I am alone. Taehyun nodded slowly, making a decision that would change everything. I'll come back tomorrow with more supplies, he said. Help you repair your ship. Ryu's eyes blinked slowly. Why would you help an alien creature? Taehyun considered the question. Because it seems like the right thing to do, and because I have so many questions. The translator made a sound like laughter. Curiosity. Perhaps this is why your species has advanced despite limitations. As Taehyun prepared to leave, promising to return at dawn, Ryu shifted again. Taehyun Park, the dragon said. You should know that by entering this vessel and assisting me, you have already become part of something much larger than your world. The universe is vast, filled with wonders and dangers. Your life will never be the same. Taehyun paused at the opening of the craft and looked back at the alien dragon. Good, he said simply. I'm counting on that. Taehyun returned to the crash site at dawn the next day. His backpack was heavy with tools, spare parts, and food. He had barely slept, his mind racing with questions about the alien dragon. When he reached the damaged spacecraft, he found Ryu awake and alert. You came back, the dragon said through the translation device. I promised I would, Taehyun replied, unpacking his supplies. How are you feeling? My body heals, Ryu said. The ship does not. Over the next few days, a routine formed. Taehyun would arrive early in the morning, work on repairs until sunset, then reluctantly return to his apartment in the nearby city. He called in sick to work, using up vacation days he had saved for years. Nothing seemed more important than helping Ryu. As they worked together, Taehyun learned more about the Dora. They were an ancient species that had mastered space travel thousands of years ago. Their civilization spread across multiple star systems, but they remained cautious about contacting new species. We have observed Earth for centuries, Ryu explained while Taehyun carefully repaired a damaged power conduit. Your broadcasts reach far into space. We learn your languages, study your cultures. But you never said hello, Taehyun noted. Ryu's scales shifted color slightly, which Taehyun had learned indicated discomfort. Your species is considered unpredictable. Many galactic powers believe humans too volatile for first contact. Taehyun laughed at this. And yet you're letting me rebuild your quantum drive with parts from my microwave. The plates around Ryu's mouth moved in what Taehyun now recognized as the dragon's version of a smile. Perhaps that unpredictability has advantages. By the end of the first week, Taehyun had managed to restore basic power to the ship's systems. Lights flickered on in chambers he hadn't seen before, revealing the true size of the vessel. What looked small from outside was deceptively large within, a trick of technology he couldn't begin to understand. One evening, while they shared a meal. Taehyun eating instant ramen, Ryu consuming strange blue crystals. The dragon revealed something unexpected. "I should tell you my true identity," Ryu said. "I am not a simple explorer. Among my people I am the equivalent of what you would call royalty. A child of the High Council." Taehyun nearly choked on his noodles. "You're an alien prince." "The concept is similar," Ryu confirmed. "I was on a diplomatic mission when my ship was attacked. The attack was not random. I was targeted." "By who?" Taehyun asked. "That is what troubles me," Ryu said. "I do not know. My memory of the attack is unclear." As the second week progressed, their work became more complex. Taehyun salvaged parts from old computers, car engines, even children's toys, anything that might substitute for the damaged alien components. He showed remarkable skill at adapting Earth technology to interface with the advanced systems of Ryu's ship. "Your technology is primitive, but your solutions are unexpected," Ryu noted, watching Taehyun splice alien circuitry with Earth components. "No Dore would consider such unorthodox approaches." "That's humanity's specialty," Taehyun replied with pride. "We make do with what we have." Their conversations grew deeper as they worked. Ryu explained the structure of galactic society. Hundreds of species organized into alliances and federations, trading routes spanning thousands of light years, conflicts and peace treaties that had lasted for millennia. "And all of it happening while we argue about borders on our tiny planet," Taehyun marveled. "Your isolation has shaped you," Ryu said. "Humans develop solutions no other species would consider because you have only yourselves to rely on." By the third week, the ship was nearly operational. The external damage remained, but the internal systems functioned well enough for basic flight. As their technical discussions became less urgent, their conversations evolved into philosophical exchanges. "Do your people have religion?" Taehyun asked one evening as they sat outside the ship, watching the stars appear. "We have understanding," Ryu replied. "The universe is vast but connected. All life shares common origins." "That sounds like a religion to me," Taehyun said with a smile. "Perhaps. Do humans still fight wars over beliefs?" "Unfortunately, yes." Ryu's eyes blinked slowly. "Yet you build beautiful things. Your music reaches the stars. Your art shows deep understanding of connections you cannot prove exist. Humans contain contradictions other species find difficult to reconcile." On the 18th day, Taehyun arrived to find Ryu testing the ship's engines. The craft hummed with energy, hovering slightly above the ground. "You fixed it," Taehyun said, feeling both proud and suddenly sad. "We have fixed it," Ryu corrected. "Though it cannot travel between stars yet, it can reach orbit. From there, I might eventually contact my people." Taehyun nodded, trying to hide his disappointment. He had known this day would come, but part of him had hoped for more time. "I've brought something," he said, pulling a small device from his pocket. "It's a hard drive with information about Earth, our languages, history, science, in case you want to remember us." Ryu took the device carefully in a clawed hand. "A thoughtful gift. But I have one for you as well." The dragon retreated into the ship and returned with a small crystal that glowed with inner light. "This contains basic knowledge of Dore science," Ryu explained. "Not enough to build starships, but enough to advance your understanding by decades." Taehyun stared at the crystal. "Won't you get in trouble for sharing technology with a primitive species?" "Probably," Ryu admitted. "But I have learned that rules, like ship components, sometimes need creative reinterpretation." That night, they sat together on a hill overlooking the crash site. The repaired ship glowed softly in the darkness. "When will you leave?" Taehyun asked. "Tomorrow," Ryu said. "The longer I stay, the greater the risk of discovery by your authorities." Taehyun nodded. He had been careful to keep Ryu's existence secret, but hikers occasionally ventured this way. It was only a matter of time. "I never expected when I found you that we would become—" Taehyun paused, searching for the right word. "Friends," Ryo finished for him. An unexpected outcome. My people would be shocked that a human was my first friend outside the doorway. Mine would be equally shocked about my dragon friend from space. Taehyun laughed. As they watched a meteor streak across the sky, Ryu turned to Taehyun. Would you consider coming with me? Not permanently, but to see my world. No human has ever traveled beyond your solar system. Taehyun's heart raced at the thought. Is that even possible? With modifications to life support, yes. It would be dangerous, possibly one way. But you would see things no human has seen. Taehyun looked up at the stars, countless possible destinations shining above them. When do we leave? Taehyun walked up the mountain path toward Ryu's ship, excitement building in his chest. After 3 weeks of repairs, today was the day they would test if the ship could reach orbit. He carried a small bag with personal items, a photo of his family, a Korean-English dictionary, and some basic supplies. The thought of seeing Earth from space made him smile. As he reached the clearing, something felt wrong. Birds weren't singing. The air felt still and heavy. Then he heard a low hum that made his teeth vibrate. Ryu burst from the ship, moving faster than Taehyun had ever seen. Get in. Now, before Taehyun could ask questions, 3 black shapes broke through the clouds above them. They weren't planes, more like giant metal insects with smooth, shiny bodies. They descended rapidly toward the clearing. What are those? Taehyun gasped as Ryu pulled him inside the ship. Mecha, Ryu hissed, sealing the entrance behind them. They tracked me. Through the view screen, Taehyun watched as the black ships landed. Panels opened in their sides, and figures emerged. Tall, thin beings that moved with cold precision. They weren't robots, exactly. They looked partly biological, with metal parts growing from flesh. What are they doing? Taehyun whispered. Scanning for my ship, Ryu replied, moving rapidly between control panels. Our camouflage is failing. One of the mecha turned directly toward them, raising a device that shot a beam of red light across the clearing. The light passed over Ryu's ship, and immediately the beings began moving toward them. They see us, Taehyun said, his heart pounding. Ryu activated several systems at once. The ship hummed to life, but warning lights flashed across the controls. The repairs aren't complete, Ryu said grimly. We may not survive takeoff. We definitely won't survive staying here, Taehyun pointed out. As the mecha approached, Ryu finally explained. They seek our biotechnology. My diplomatic mission was to warn potential allies. The mecha consume biological intelligence, incorporating it into their network. Taehyun tried to process this information as he watched the beings draw closer. Their movements were unnaturally smooth, like predators sure of their prey. Your species was next on my warning list, Ryu continued. The Dore Council detected mecha scout ships near your solar system months ago. Outside, one of the mecha raised an arm that transformed into a weapon. It pointed at the ship. We need a distraction, Taehyun said, looking at the ship's systems. An idea formed in his mind. Your emergency beacon, can we change its frequency? For what purpose? Ryu asked. To confuse them, Taehyun said, already working on the controls. If we broadcast on the same frequency as Earth satellites, it might scramble their sensors. Ryu's eyes widened in understanding. Unorthodox, but possible. Working quickly, Taehyun reconfigured the ship's emergency beacon, changing its frequency to match Earth satellite transmissions. The effect was immediate. The approaching mecha stopped, their heads tilting as if confused. Their weapons wavered. It's working, Taehyun exclaimed. They can't lock onto us. They'll analyze and adapt quickly, Ryu warned. This gives us minutes, not hours. Then we need to move faster, Taehyun replied, initiating the launch sequence they had prepared for testing. The ship's engines whined in protest. The mecha recovered from their confusion and began firing at the ship. Energy blasts struck the hull, making the entire vessel shake. Warning lights flashed across every control panel. "Hold on," Ryu shouted as the engines finally engaged. The acceleration pushed Tae-yun back into his seat. Trees and debris flew past the view screen as the ship shot upward. More black ships appeared above them, moving to intercept. "They're trying to box us in," Ryu said, his claws dancing across the controls with practiced speed. Tae-yun watched in awe as Ryu piloted the damaged vessel through the incoming ships, narrowly avoiding their weapons' fire. The blue sky darkened as they climbed higher, eventually giving way to the blackness of space. Earth became a blue marble below them. For a moment, Tae-yun forgot their danger as he saw his home planet from space for the first time. "It's beautiful," he whispered. The moment was broken by alarms. More mecha ships appeared, rising from Earth's atmosphere behind them. "They're following us," Tae-yun said. Ryu nodded grimly. "And they've identified your planet now. Earth is marked in their navigation systems." Tae-yun felt cold fear grip his heart. "What does that mean?" "It means they will return," Ryu said, "with more ships. More mecha." The pursuing ships grew smaller as Ryu pushed their damaged vessel to its limits. Finally, when Earth was just a distant blue dot, the alarms quieted. They had escaped, for now. "I must take you to my homeworld," Ryu said quietly. "The Council must know about the mecha's expansion, and about humans." As their ship entered what Ryu called fold space, a method of travel faster than light, Tae-yun tried to process what had happened. In one day, he had left Earth, seen his planet from space, and learned it was now threatened by alien machines that consumed biological life. "How long until we reach your homeworld?" he asked. 5 days, Ryu replied. "The ship cannot travel at full efficiency with the damage." Those 5 days changed Tae-yun forever. Looking through viewports, he saw wonders he had never imagined. Vast nebulae in colors that hurt his eyes, planets with rings that made Saturn look plain, and strange structures floating in space that Ryu explained were ancient artifacts from long-dead civilizations. But most surprising was what Tae-yun learned about the galaxy's political structure. Hundreds of intelligent species formed alliances, traded, and occasionally fought. Most shocking was that humans were known to many of them, observed from a distance but never contacted. "Why haven't any of these civilizations reached out to Earth?" Tae-yun asked as they passed a massive space station where ships of dozens of designs docked and departed. "Fear, mostly," Ryu admitted. "Humans are seen as unpredictable, dangerous." "That seems unfair," Tae-yun protested. Ryu's scales shifted color slightly. "Perhaps, but consider your history. No other species we know of has come so close to destroying their own planet so many times, yet made such rapid progress." As they traveled, Tae-yun noticed something else. Despite their advanced technology, the Dore approached problems with rigid thinking. When minor systems failed during their journey, Ryu would follow exact procedures that sometimes made problems worse. Once, when the life support system began failing, Ryu prepared to shut down half the ship, a standard procedure that would have left them in darkness for hours. Instead, Tae-yun suggested rerouting power temporarily through the navigation system while they fixed the main problem. "That is not how it is done," Ryu had objected. "But will it work?" Tae-yun asked. It did work, saving them considerable time and discomfort. After several such incidents, Ryu began to see value in Tae-yun's approach. "We have become so reliant on our technology that we forget to think beyond it," Ryu admitted. "This may be humanity's greatest strength against the mecha. They think like us, logically, predictably. Your chaotic solutions may be exactly what the galaxy needs." On the 5th day, their damaged ship approached a massive blue-green planet surrounded by rings and small moons. Orbital stations and defense platforms surrounded it like a protective shell. "Dora Prime," Ryu announced. "My home." As they entered the planet's orbit, dozens of ships approached them. Sleek, powerful vessels that made Ryu's small craft look primitive by comparison. "They're not happy to see us," Tae-yun guessed, noting the aggressive formation. They're even less happy to see you, Ray replied. No human has ever been brought to Dora Prime. The council will be furious. Then why bring me? Ryu's eyes met his. Because sometimes old ways must change, or we all perish. The mecha are coming, Taeyeon, and I believe humans may be the key to stopping them. The great chamber of the Dore Council rose hundreds of feet into the air, its walls made of living crystal that hummed with energy. 12 massive dragons perched on elevated platforms arranged in a circle. Their scales shimmered with colors that reminded Taeyeon of distant galaxies. He felt very small standing in the center with Ryu beside him. You bring a human to our sacred chamber. The largest dragon spoke, her voice rumbling like thunder. This breaks our oldest laws, Prince Ryu. Ryu bowed his head slightly. The situation demanded it. Elder Moon. The mecha have found Earth. They will attack soon. Another dragon, with scales that shifted between deep blue and purple, leaned forward. This primitive creature proposes we ally with his species against the mecha. Counselor Suk questioned, her voice dripping with disdain. Humans have barely mastered their own atmosphere. Taeyeon felt anger rise in his chest, but kept his voice steady. With respect, he interjected, looking directly at the massive dragon. Being underestimated is exactly our advantage. The mecha analyze patterns and predict responses. Humans specialize in chaos and innovation. The council chamber filled with rumbling sounds that Taeyeon realized was laughter. The human speaks boldly, said an older dragon with faded scales. But facts remain. Earth has no unified government, no space fleet, no defense against mecha technology. For hours, Taeyeon tried to convince the council that humans were worth saving, worth allying with. Ryu supported him, describing how Taeyeon's unusual solutions had saved their ship multiple times. But the council remained unmoved. We will permit the human sanctuary on Dore Prime while we deliberate humanity's fate, Elder Moon finally announced. But no technology shall be shared, no ships sent to Earth. We cannot risk mecha gaining our advanced systems through human carelessness. As guards led them from the chamber, Taeyeon felt defeat weigh heavily on his shoulders. They won't help, will they? He asked once they were alone. Ryu's eyes showed sadness. The council moves slowly. They may debate for months. Earth doesn't have months, Taeyeon replied. Over the next week, Taeyeon was given quarters in a beautiful tower overlooking the capital city. The view took his breath away. Crystal spires that captured sunlight, living buildings that grew and changed shape, flying creatures that carried passengers between districts. But he couldn't enjoy it. Every moment, he thought of Earth, defenseless against the coming mecha attack. Ryu visited daily, bringing information and small pieces of technology that he wasn't supposed to share. Together, in secret, they began developing hybrid systems that combined Dore biotechnology with human-inspired improvisation. Your council may not help, Taeyeon said as they worked, but we can prepare something for Earth anyway. Ryu's mouth plates shifted in a smile. This is why humans worry the council. You never accept limitations. They created devices that used unpredictable energy patterns, shields that constantly changed frequency, and weapons that fired in random sequences. None of these would have been designed by Dore engineers who valued perfect patterns and logical progression. The mecha think like your people, Taeyeon explained. They expect order and patterns. Our best defense is unpredictability. On the 10th day, alarms blared throughout the city. Ryu burst into Taeyeon's quarters, his scales pale with distress. They've attacked Earth, he said without preamble. The mecha launched their first assault 6 hours ago. Taeyeon felt his heart stop. Where? How bad? Multiple cities simultaneously. Your militaries fight bravely, but cannot penetrate mecha shields. The council has called an emergency session. Taeyeon stood up, fury replacing shock. Your council debates while my world burns, he said, facing Ryu. I need to return home. Ryu's decision was immediate. Then I go with you. They'll consider it treason, Taehyun warned. They already do, Ryu replied. I've prepared a ship. Our prototype defenses are installed. That night, they stole a small Dora vessel from a maintenance dock. Ryu's royal code still worked, allowing them to bypass security. As they accelerated away from the planet, larger ships moved to intercept them. They're ordering us to return, Ryu said, monitoring communications. Will they fire on a prince? Taehyun asked, worried. Normally, no, but these are not normal times. Energy beams lanced past their ship as Ryu executed evasive maneuvers. Just when capture seemed inevitable, Ryu activated the fold space drive. Stars blurred around them as they escaped. The journey back to Earth took 3 days. As they approached the solar system, they detected massive energy signatures, the mecha fleet in orbit around Earth. There are dozens of ships, Taehyun whispered in horror. Their sensors showed battles raging across the planet. Human militaries fought desperately against mecha ground forces. Some cities burned. Others were dark, their power grids destroyed. We need to find someone in authority, Ryu said as they entered Earth's atmosphere, using their ship's cloaking to avoid mecha detection. Seoul, Taehyun decided. It's my home city. If it still stands, I have contacts there. They found Seoul damaged but fighting. Anti-aircraft fire filled the sky as Korean and Allied forces battled mecha ground units. Ryu landed their ship in a park near the Han River, using buildings for cover. When they emerged, soldiers immediately surrounded them, weapons raised. Taehyun raised his hands. My name is Taehyun Park, he called out in Korean. I'm human. This is Ryu, from the Dora. We're here to help. After tense explanations and several phone calls, they were escorted to an underground command center. There they met Joo Kim, a military strategist coordinating global defenses. Another alien, she asked skeptically, looking at Ryu. The first ones aren't friendly enough. The mecha are enemies to all biological life, Ryu explained. The Dora have fought them for centuries. Joo led them to a situation room filled with screens showing battles worldwide. The news wasn't good. Mecha forces advanced methodically, adapting to each human tactic. Their systems anticipate conventional tactics, Joo explained during a hurried briefing. Every adaptive strategy we deploy works once, then fails. They learn too quickly. Taehyun smiled for the first time since returning. Then we'll just have to be more creative than they can adapt to. He unloaded the prototype devices they had built on Dora Prime, explaining how they worked. Joo immediately called in scientists and engineers. Within hours, Taehyun and Ryu were working with Earth's best minds, sharing knowledge and developing new technologies. The first test came 3 days later when mecha forces pushed toward Seoul's center. Human forces deployed the new weapons, handheld devices, that emitted electromagnetic pulses in completely random patterns. The mecha shields, designed to block predictable energy signatures, fluctuated and failed. It's working, Joo reported as the first mecha units fell. They can't adapt to the randomness. Over the next week, human factories worldwide began producing the new technology. Regular soldiers couldn't defeat the mecha, but special units equipped with the hybrid weapons could. For the first time, humanity began pushing back. The mecha responded by intensifying orbital bombardment, but Taehyun had anticipated this. Working with satellite engineers, he adapted Dora cloaking technology to hide key installations. The bombardment hit empty buildings while humans operated safely from hidden bunkers. 2 weeks after their return, the tide turned decisively during the Battle of Seoul. Mecha ground forces, expecting an orderly defense of the city center, instead faced attacks from seemingly random directions. Human forces used subway tunnels, sewers, even consumer drones carrying small explosive devices, all following patterns too chaotic for mecha prediction algorithms. They're retreating, came the reports from the front lines. In the command center, Joo embraced Taehyun spontaneously. We've done it. Seoul is the first major victory against them anywhere on Earth. Taehyun looked at Ryu, who dipped his head in respect. Human unpredictability, the dragon said. It is exactly what I told the council we needed. As news of Seoul's victory spread, resistance movements worldwide adopted the same tactics. The mecha, faced with completely unpredictable defense systems, began suffering defeats across the planet. They'll adapt eventually, Taehyun cautioned during a strategy meeting. But by then, we'll have something new ready for them. For the first time since the invasion began, hope spread across Earth. Humanity was fighting back and winning. The sky above Seoul filled with massive shadows as the Dory fleet arrived. People stopped in the streets, looking up with a mixture of fear and hope. These ships were different from the black, insect-like mecha vessels. They shimmered with blue-green light and moved with grace despite their enormous size. In the command center beneath the city, alarms sounded as sensors detected the new arrivals. Are they friends or more enemies? Ju asked, looking at the screen showing dozens of ships entering Earth orbit. Ryu's scales brightened with surprise. It's the Dory Council fleet. All of it. Taehyun couldn't believe what he was seeing. They came after refusing to help. The Battle of Seoul must have changed their minds, Ryu said. They watched as the Dory ships engaged the remaining mecha vessels. The battle was brief but spectacular. Mecha ships, overwhelmed by superior numbers and technology, quickly retreated from Earth orbit. 3 hours later, a small Dory ship landed in the same park where Taehyun and Ryu had arrived weeks earlier. This time, instead of being met by nervous soldiers, a formal delegation of world leaders waited to greet them. A massive dragon emerged from the ship, larger than Ryu, and covered in scales that shimmered like moonlight on water. Elder Hyun, head of the Dory Council, surveyed the human delegation with ancient eyes. We observe your defense, announced Hyun, the translation device making her voice sound almost musical. No species has repelled the mecha initial assault. Perhaps we misjudged humanity's potential. Taehyun stepped forward with Ryu. What made you change your mind, Elder? The great dragon's eyes fixed on him. You did, human. Your victory here using improvised technology proved what Prince Ryu argued. Humans approach problems differently than any species we know. The mecha cannot predict you. In the months that followed, Earth transformed. The immediate threat of invasion forced human governments to work together in ways they never had before. Old enemies became allies against a common threat. Resources previously used for fighting each other were directed toward planetary defense. The Dory, impressed by humanity's adaptive thinking, offered limited technology sharing, a privilege usually reserved for centuries-old alliance partners. Taehyun found himself leading a team of human and Dory engineers, developing new hybrid technologies that combined the best of both worlds. Ryu, officially pardoned and reinstated to diplomatic status, worked alongside him. Their friendship deepened as they bridged the gap between their species. 6 months after the Battle of Seoul, they stood together on the roof of a new research facility, watching test flights of aircraft that used Dory principles but human designs. Look at how they fly, Taehyun said, pointing to the aircraft performing maneuvers that should have been impossible. No set patterns, constant improvisation. The mecha believed biological life too chaotic to perfect, Ryu remarked as they watched. They never considered that chaos itself might be a perfection they couldn't comprehend. Word spread throughout the galaxy about humanity's unprecedented resistance. The species that had been written off as too primitive and unstable had accomplished what ancient civilizations could not. They had forced the mecha to retreat. Delegations from other worlds began arriving on Earth. Some came in friendship, others in cautious assessment of this new power. Each expressed variations of the same sentiment. Humans were dangerous, unpredictable, and now essential allies. A reptilian ambassador from the Krith Confederacy summed it up during a United Nations meeting. For millennia, we feared humanity would one day reach the stars and bring chaos to our ordered societies. Now we see that chaos is exactly what the galaxy needs. The mecha did not give up easily. They launched 3 more attacks on Earth over the next year, each more powerful than the last. But each time, human Dora defenses adapted in ways the mecha could not predict. Each attack was repelled with fewer casualties than before. After the 3rd failed invasion, the mecha withdrew completely from Earth's sector of space. Intelligence reports suggested they were reconsidering their entire strategy, something they had not done in thousands of years. 1 year after Taehyun found a crashed ship in the mountains, Earth was formally invited to join the Galactic Confederation, not as a protectorate, but as an equal member. The ceremony took place in the newly constructed Harmony Tower in Seoul, where representatives from 37 species gathered. The tower, built with both human and alien technology, rose like a spiral of glass and living crystal above the city that had seen the first major victory against the mecha. Its design incorporated elements from all major Earth cultures alongside subtle influences from off-world architecture. Inside the Grand Hall, diplomats from Earth sat across from beings of incredible diversity, some resembling animals, others plants, some made of energy contained in special suits. The Dori Council members occupied one entire side of the room, their massive forms dwarfing the other delegates. Taehyun stood beside Ryu, watching as human representatives signed the historic accords. 1 year ago, he had been an aerospace engineer hiking in the mountains. Now he was witnessing humanity's official entrance into galactic society. "Did you know this would happen when you saved me?" Ryu asked quietly. Taehyun smiled. "Not in a million years. But that's humanity for you. We specialize in the unexpected." After the ceremony, as celebrations began worldwide, Taehyun and Ryu returned to their research facility. Reports indicated mecha activity far from Earth, suggesting they were regrouping for a new strategy. "They won't give up," Ryu noted. "The mecha have existed for thousands of years. They are patient." "So are we," Taehyun replied. "And now we're not facing them alone." That night, as Taehyun looked up at stars that now represented known worlds rather than distant mysteries, he reflected on how much had changed. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge, and not only survived but thrived. Earth was now a center of innovation in the fight against the mecha, with scientists from dozens of species working together on new defenses. Across the galaxy, the mecha collective processed these developments with the closest thing they had to concern. For thousands of years, they had expanded methodically, analyzing and conquering species with perfect efficiency. Human unpredictability had transformed from a curiosity to a threat. For the first time in their existence, the mecha faced an enemy whose next move they could not calculate. And that was exactly what scared them.